Are they freedom fighters or are they terrorists? Is it a separation wall or a security fence? Should we call it targeted killing, or maybe we should call it targeted assassinations? Is Zionism really racism? All of these questions have one thing in common. They have nothing to do with the ideology of being in favor or against. What they do have in common is that they all relate to the importance of terminology. And that's what this video is about. When somebody says wall, people will think about the Great Wall of China or the Berlin Wall. And so when they relate to the Israeli security fence as a wall, what they are trying to do is in a very covert fashion get the audience, and get you even, to agree that there is similarity between both these cases. And based on that similarity, put you as an underdog. We've created separate videos for every one of the categories that we have come to learn are constant categories that require this kind of attention. For example, and I've given you a partial list, when people talk to you about Israeli presence in the territories, and they talk about Israeli roadblocks, it's very, very important for you to negotiate with them. Is it a roadblock? Or maybe we should call it a checkpoint, because it's a point where we want to check people. There's a whole video on that. When people talk about Israel's policy of targeted assassinations, do they really mean Israel's policy of targeted killing? Because assassination is a very loaded word, and it doesn't represent the reality of this specific policy. When the media, and when politicians, and when activists say that a Palestinian freedom fighter blew up in a central location in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, you should ask them, do we really want to call that person a freedom fighter? Maybe it would be more accurate to call that person a terrorist. Now, you can do that negotiation, you can conduct it in two ways. You can put it on the table. You can turn to the person in front of you and say, sir, I don't want to hold back the conversation too much, but I've noticed that you've used the word freedom fighter. I feel we should use the word terrorist. Why don't we talk about that for a minute, reach an understanding, and then continue. You could do it that way. Or you could simply rebut. For every time that the person uses the word freedom fighter, you can come back with the term terrorist. And if he says, well, what's it the Palestinian freedom fighter's fault if he had to blow himself up in the street? You can say, well, sir, I feel that that specific terrorist did something that is immoral. You will always counter a term with your term. And if you're smart and if you do it wisely, you'll do it in a way that constantly emphasizes why your term is a more precise use or representation of that reality than an alternate term. But we'll show you on a factual level that even if you think there are forms of illegitimate discrimination in Israel, it would be wrong to describe that as apartheid. We will show you that even if you do not think that the Israeli security fence is legitimate, it's still a fence nonetheless. Representing reality correctly is a basic tenet of morality. If people are to make a decision based on a reality that they are exposed to, it's very, very important that they see the right reality. And in every one of the following videos that deal with terminology, we'll try to show you what we think is the best representation of reality. We will show you that even if you do not think that the Israeli security fence is legitimate, it's still a fence nonetheless. And it's very, very important to realize that beyond ideology, there are facts and there is terminology.